Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
This hour, we're going to start off, we're going to travel around the country. A little later, we're going to head to Arkansas. But right now, we're going to head to Wistful Vista, 79 to be precise, and see what's going on in the household of Fibber McGee and Molly. And it looks like Fibber has misplaced something very, very important.
The Johnson Wax Program with Fibber McGee and Molly. The makers of Johnson's Wax products for home and industry present Fibber McGee and Molly with Bill Thompson, Gail Gordon, Arthur Q. Bryan, and me, Harlow Wilcox. The script is by Don Quinn and Phil Leslie. Music by the King's Men and Billy Mills Orchestra. When you come across one of those how much do you know quizzes in a magazine, there are three ways you can play it. One, the smart way, skip past and pretend you didn't see it. Two, the snide way, turn right to the answers. And three, the honest way, get a pencil, sit down, and make a bum of the editors. Like Mrs. McGee, of Fibber McGee and Molly.
Now, let me see, number 7. What kind of fur is used to make felt?
Now, that's a trick question, kiddo. Don't let them fool you. Felt is made out of old hats. They grind them up.
I think it's rabbit fur. I'll put that down, rabbit fur.
Yeah, well, don't say I didn't warn you, Snooky.
Question 8. What is the chemical formula for water?
If they mean our city water, that's easy. 1 part mud, 3 part bubbles, and enough chlorine to calcimine Paul Whiteman.
Water is hydrogen, 2 parts oxygen. H2O.
Well, that was part right. Bubbles is oxygen.
Question 9. What was Woodrow Wilson's first name?
Skip that one. It's too easy. Woodrow.
It was Thomas. Thomas Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, Tom. Yeah, sure.
And the last question, where does quinine come from?
The drugstore.
I think it's the bark of the cinchona tree.
Ooh.
Let me see now. Answers on page 83. Here we are. Heavenly days, 100%. I answered them all right, dearie.
Well, those questions were very simple, of course. You know what I did in this very room last Monday night?
Yes, you upset your root beer all over the floor.
I listened to Dr. IQ, and if I'd have been in his theater audience that night, I'd have won 23 boxes of Snickers.
That's what they give the losers, dearie.
You're not a loser if you win something. By George, one of these days I'll get on information, please, too. Then just wait till they ask me to finish that poem about the boy stood on the burning deck.
Can you finish it?
I'll say I can. The boy stood on the burning deck, whence all but him had flew. 'Twas a cattle boat, and he set it afire 'cause he wanted a barbecue. And if they ask me anything about Shakespeare, I'll say...
Come in. Oh, it's Mayor Latrivia. Do come in, Your Honor.
Good day, Molly. Hello, McGee.
Hiya, Politico. Don't tell us you come straight from the city hall, because nobody ever did.
That's one man's opinion, and I'll take it for what it's worth, which is practically nothing. Did you vote in the recent municipal elections, McGee?
He did not, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I was too busy, Latriv. The hinge broke on my fishing tackle box, and I was all over town trying to find a welder.
I see. You're the type of citizen who'd rather cast aspersions than votes. But you can't dampen my spirits today. I just came from federal court where I had a very happy experience.
Acquitted, were you?
What were you up for, Latriv? Drawing P-38s on 3-cent stamps and using them for airmail?
I wasn't up for anything. I was in court as a character witness in some citizenship proceedings. I never saw a happier group of people.
Oh, it must mean a lot to them to be citizens.
Oh, it should. It means a lot to me to be a citizen, too.
Can you prove you are a citizen, McGee?
I don't have to prove it. I was born in the United States.
May I see your birth certificate?
He hasn't any, Mr. Mayor. It was destroyed when the courthouse burned down in 1916.
Really? Well, don't come to me for help when they start deportation proceedings, McGee.
Deportation proceedings? I'm a United States citizen. They can't deportate me. Can they?
How about you, Molly? Have you anything to prove your citizenship?
Oh, yes, I have a passport. I was going to Europe once, but I found out how much it would cost, and I didn't go.
Well, a passport is proof enough. You're in the clear.
Hey, now, wait a minute. You mean the government can send me away simply because I got no papers to prove that I... You're kidding, aren't you, Latriv? He's kidding, isn't he, Molly?
For goodness sakes, dearie, stop worrying. What if they do send you away? You can always come in again on the quota.
On the quota?
I'll meet you at Ellis Island with some sandwiches.
Gee whiz, Oh, this is all a joke. Isn't it?
It wasn't a joke to the people who got their papers this morning, McGee. They really studied to pass that examination.
I'll study. I'll study like everything. I'll run down there some morning and pass the test just to be safe. How about it, Latriv? You know the judge. Pass the word that I'm just doing it for fun, see? He'll go along with the gag, and I'll have my papers.
I'll see what I can do. You'll be in Judge Krieger's court this afternoon at 5, McGee. I'll put in a word for you. Good day.
Well?
Is this on the level, kiddo? My gosh, if I flunk the test, what if they... Hey, wait a minute. How can they deport me? Where'll they deport me to?
A good question.
If I ain't a citizen, then I ain't from any place.
Well, in that case, dearie, I believe they just haul you around on a ship all the time.
Oh, boy, that's for me. Travel and see the world. Maybe we can get them to deport you with me, and we could just cruise till the cows come. Uh-oh.
What's the matter?
I just thought of something. I can't let them deport me now. I got a cabin reserved at Dugan's Lake for 2 weeks in August.
Oh, dear.
I'll take the test. I'll go down to the library and get some books right now. I'll study. I'll be smartest immigrant they ever saw. I will. Don't go away.
June 3rd, 1947. Fibber McGee and Molly on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Well, let's get back to Fibber McGee studying for his citizenship test. What? Yeah. June 3rd, 1947, Fibber McGee and Molly.
Hadn't you better put down those books a while and rest your eyes, dearie? You can't learn everything all at once, you know.
Well, maybe not, but I darn near have. If anything has happened in the United States since 1776 that I don't know about, they done it behind my back.
What kind of questions do you think the judge will ask you?
Oh, for instance, like who's the president of the United States? Who's the vice president? Who's the secretary?
Oh, wait a minute now. Hold it. Who is the vice president?
Now, let's come back to that later. Ask me something else.
Very well. What qualifications must a man have to become president of the U.S.?
Well, he's got to be over 21, native born, and not look too foolish when they take his picture holding the fly rod with a papier-mâché trout on it. Even if he don't know a crappie from a guppy, he's supposed to stay.
Come in. Oh, it's Mr. Wimple. Come in, Mr. Wimple.
Hello, folks.
Hi, Wimp, old man. If you can't find a vacant chair, sit on a pile of books. Give you a literary background.
My goodness, I never saw so many books. Are you taking a correspondence course in something, Mr. McGee?
No, he's studying up on American government, Mr. Wimple.
Going to take out citizenship papers, Wimp.
But that takes 2 years, Mr. McGee.
That's a lot of ma-ha-ha, Wimp. That 2-year stuff may be okay for immigrants, but not for a guy like me that knows a few answers. I got influence. I know the right people. I can pull more wires than a cut-rate piano tuner. I got drag.
My goodness. You talk like an American citizen already, Mr. McGee.
I am a citizen, Wimp, but I got no way to prove it, you see, so I'm going to play it safe. Pass the test for citizenship, take the oath of malfeasance, and get my papers. Been studying for it, too. Ask me something.
Go on, Mr. Wimple. Ask him something.
Anything?
Anything. Just ask me a question.
All righty. May I have a drink of water?
Certainly, Mr. Wimple, but he means a question about American history or government.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. What public body is known as the 9 Old Men?
Oh, that's a cinch. The Chicago White Sox.
No, dearie, it's the United States Supreme Court.
Oh, yeah. Well, try me again, Wimp.
Well, I'm afraid I haven't time for any more, Mr. McGee. I have to go home and finish some poems.
Oh.
I'm trying to make enough money to buy Sweetie Face a new fur coat.
Sweetie Face, you mean...
Yes, my big old wife. I'm writing some poems that resort hotels can pin up this summer.
Oh, you got any with you, Wimp?
Yes, I have.
Oh.
One of them is for a hotel bedroom wall. It goes, our guests are requested not to parade through the lobbies in scanty attire. New guests are quite frequently frightened away because it looks like the joint is on fire.
That's very good, Mr. Wimp.
Great, Wimp, great. You got one for the guy that's always tipping the canoe?
Yes, that's my best one, Mr. McGee. They'll pin that one up in the boathouses.
Oh.
It goes, a muscular girl named Miss Hubble gave a boat-rocking joker some trouble. As she held his head under, he realized his blunder and sent up his regrets in a bubble. Well, I've got to get back home, folks. Goodbye now.
So long. Well, back to work. Now, let me see. Where was it? Oh, yeah. You know anything about the Bill of Rights, Molly?
Yes, don't worry about it, though, dearie. I told him we'd pay it by Thursday.
Who?
Mr. Wright, the hardware man, he sent us a bill,
No. I mean the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. You see, the first 10 amendments were
Hello, Molly. Hello, Fibber. Hey, if you're going bowling tonight, I'll... Oh, you reading, pal?
He's going to take out papers, Mr. Wilcox. He wants to be an American citizen.
Pal, you never told me. Are you really a foreigner?
Did you swallow that stuff about the good old days in Peoria, Junior? Oh, that's camouflage. I was smuggled into this country from a tramp steamer in 1913. Come ashore one foggy night just north of San Pedro, California. 4 other Chinese fellows and myself.
4 other Chinese? You mean you're a...
Yes. I'm Chinese, Junior. Used to be a coolie on a melon plantation outside of Shanghai.
Come to me, my melon coolie baby.
But gee whiz, pal. Look, your face. You don't look...
Plastic surgery, Junior. I often long for those mysterious Oriental nights, with the Samarkand strumming their mandarins outside of old Fuyang, and the golden-throated Bohao Doys singing in the branches of the chow mein tree, and those sing-song girls serving my oolong in fragile little jinrickshaws as the Wang Pu rises over the snow-capped sandbank. Someday, but no. Now I become very good American citizen.
Look, pal, you told me once that in 1913 you had a vaudeville act in Chicago.
Sure. Did I tell you what theater?
No.
The Oriental. Right, dearie?
Right, my lotus blossom. Long Tack Sam, I was known as in them days.
Oh, now cut it out. I don't believe a word of this stuff, pal. You're about as Oriental as bubble gum. What goes on here?
I haven't got a birth certificate, Junior. I want to be able to prove I'm a citizen. I'm getting ready to take the examination right now. Ask me a question. Go on. Anything about our history, our government.
Okay. Who was Pennsylvania named after?
Fred Waring and his Pennsylvania.
He's going to be on for Johnson's Wax again this summer, too. Isn't that a coincidence?
Yes, isn't it? Hey, by the way, I don't think I have a birth certificate either. The courthouse in Omaha burned down when I was just a little tyke. I even remember the day.
No kidding.
Just like it was yesterday. I was sitting on the kitchen floor playing soldier.
You play soldier sitting down?
I was an officer.
Oh.
Anyway, I remember the kid next door running past hollering, "Courthouse is on fire! Courthouse is on fire!"
And I'll bet you trampled down 3 regiments getting out the door.
No, I just sat there. You see, my mother had just glow-coated the kitchen linoleum before she went shopping. And the glistening beauty of it had me spellbound. Couldn't take my eyes off it.
Yes, but if the courthouse burned down with your birth certificate...
Well, sir, for minute after minute, I sat staring at that glittering linoleum, admiring the bright colors intensified by the shining surface. 3 fire engines went by. I thought of my mother pouring out that glow coat, spreading it around with the long-handled plier. A hook and ladder tore past. I didn't move.
Dull child, weren't you?
I remember how happy my mother was when she spread that Johnson's glow coat around and waited for it to dry with no rubbing and no buffing. And how delighted she was when in 20 minutes or less it dried to a gorgeous, protective, shimmering surface. And I remember her telling me how easy it was to wipe things up with a damp cloth.
Waxy.
Yes?
You through?
Yes.
You through, huh?
Yes.
Well, then pick up your damp cloth and go on home.
Okay, alien.
Now, I guess I better finish my studies and get down to that federal building.
Well, you get with it, dearie. I've got to go upstairs and make the beds. Let me know now when you're ready to go.
Okay, baby. Ah, there goes a good kid. She deserves to have a well-informed, educated man for her husband. But for the time being, I'll have to do. Now, let me see. Oh, come in.
Hi, mister.
Oh, hello there, Teeny. Now, I can't stop to dilly-dally right now, sis. This is a crucial day in my life.
Well, I was just...
I'm taking my citizenship test today, Teeny. Get my papers. That's why I got all these history books to study.
It sure is a lot of books, I bet you.
I'll say.
I never saw some...
I says I'll say.
Say what?
That's quite a pile of books.
That's what I said.
I know you did.
Okay.
Thanks. You know much about American history, sis? Personally, I never realized how fascinating it was.
Oh, I had quite a lot of it in school, mister. Like Captain John Smith and Hocaponus and...
Pocahontas, sis.
Sure. Captain John Smith and Hocaponus and Daniel Broome and the battle between the Monitor and that quartet.
Whoa. The Monitor and what?
That quartet, the Merrimacs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Monitor and the Merrimacs. There was another one between George Washington and the King's Men.
Sure. And we had all about George Washington, and his men were so poor they didn't have any shoes, and they went barefooted in the snow at Rudy Valley.
Valley Forge, sis. You know, Teeny, I ran across an interesting bit of Americana just a few minutes ago. Did you ever hear of Francis Scott Key?
Oh, sure I have, I bet you. He wrote the Star-Spangled Banner.
Right, but not many people know this angle about it. You see, Francis Scott Key and his brother Charlie got captured by the British and were held on a British gunboat while they bombarded Fort McHenry, you see?
Oh, boy, exciting, huh?
Well, sir, it was such a thrilling sight to Francis and Charlie to see the flag still flying the next morning that Charlie says to Francis, "Frank," he says, "I think I'll write a song about this." "Well, that's funny," says Francis. "I was just thinking the same thing. Let's both write a song." So they did.
You mean they collaborated, huh?
Yeah. Nobody knows for sure, sis. One of them wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, but they'd never tell anybody which one of them did it. Charlie Key says Francis did it, and Francis Key says Charlie did it. Isn't that interesting?
Why?
Because to this very day, when people sing the Star-Spangled Banner, they're never quite sure of the key.
Oh.
And you say McGee is coming down here to your office this afternoon to take out naturalization papers, Judge?
That's right, Doctor. Mail of trivia says that the man was born in Peoria, but that he insists on being naturalized, so I'm going along with the mayor's gag.
Well, a bookmaker told me years ago that the one race he couldn't dope out was the human. Neither can I. And I've looked at it from all sides, believe me.
Uh-oh, this must be my pigeon now. Do I look stern enough?
You look frightening. Pour it on him now, Judge. I'll duck out the back door. See you at the Elks.
Right. Come in.
Good morning, Judge. Good afternoon.
How do you do?
I'm Fibber McGee, Your Honor, and this is Mrs. McGee.
How do you do, I'm sure?
Mrs. McGee, have a chair, please. Mail of trivia told me all about your case, Mr. McGee. Now, you realize I'll have to ask you a few questions to test your knowledge of our country and our government.
Well, fire away, Judge. Ask me anything. I'm loaded.
Now, McGee, watch your language.
I suppose you've read the Declaration of Independence, of course.
Read it? You want to hear it? Okay. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another.
Just a minute,
and to
please.
assume among the powers of the earth... Oh, did you say something, Judge?
He knows it all, Your Honor, forwards and backwards.
Yeah, you want to hear it backwards? And another with them connected which have bands political together.
Never mind that, McGee. I see you know the Declaration. Now tell me, what kind of government does the United States have?
Well, now, that's a matter of opinion, Your Honor. Some people holler and scream about the government, but I think it's the finest
No, McGee.
Huh?
He means, is it a monarchy or a democratic form of government, or...
Oh, excuse me, Your Honor. I didn't understand the question. It's a democratic form of government.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, at least it is now. It might be Republican government next time, but you never can tell how these elections will go. Yeah.
All right. That answer is correct. Now...
We'll give you the next question after we take this break. June 3rd, 1947, Fibber McGee and Molly here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Online at classicradio.stream. The conclusion of this program follows these important messages from your favorite radio station. Just going to take a minute here to tell you about the big savings going on now, the clearance sale at mypillow.com. And you know, I've talked about how in my office I have a pair of my slippers, and they're really comfortable, and they're on clearance right now. The mypillow.com slippers, $25 a pair, limit 10. And I would buy 3 or 4 more pairs. Unfortunately, they're out of my size. They also have sheets, pillowcases, clothing items, all on special right now. Go to mypillow.com, click on the clearance tab at the top of the page, use my promo code Wyatt, or call 1-800-928-4715. Limited sizes remaining in the MyPillow slippers, limited colors on other items. mypillow.com, clearance tab, promo code Wyatt, 1-800-928-4715. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Let's get back to Fibber McGee taking his citizenship test. Fibber McGee and Molly, June 3rd, 1947.
You know, of course, that George Washington was our first president.
Oh, he knows that, Your Honor. We got that in school.
Yeah.
I see. Well, you must have gone to very fine schools. But maybe you didn't know who the second president was, McGee.
You mean John Adams? I told you I'm loaded with information, Judge. John's boy, John Quincy, was the 6th president. You know, he got married while he was overseas, of course.
No, I didn't know.
Oh, sure. Married his wife in London in 1797. They had 3 boys and a girl.
Now, McGee.
Huh?
Judge Krieger isn't interested in that. My goodness, you know.
No, just answer the questions, Mr. McGee, if you please.
Well, gee whiz, aren't you going to ask me some tough ones, Your Honor? Like, where was the center of the meat packing industry in 1818? Cincinnati. Or where did the majority of Americans live in 1490? Teepees.
That is very interesting, but
Why, certainly it is. The whole history of this country is interesting. You take from the time Tom Jefferson and Ben Franklin and the boys sat down and wrote the Declaration.
Oh, now, McGee, Judge Krieger doesn't want to hear all about that.
Why, Molly, you mean to say that a judge like Judge Krieger isn't interested in the history of our own country?
Well, of course I'm interested, but I...
It's like I say. There wasn't much money in the country in those days, but there was a lot of heart. The strong hearts of free men and free women who stuck together and worked together and cleared a wilderness to build their homes and plant their fields. And the colonies grew, prospered. 1947, that little bunch of colonies has grown through wars and depressions, and good times and bad. And all the time it's grown and gathered strength and power, till it's the greatest nation on earth today, the United States of America.
Why, McGee, that's beautiful.
My boy, that was a very interesting thing. You've told me things about this country I'd long ago forgotten. What a tremendous knowledge you have.
Oh, shucks, it's nothing any red-blooded American boy shouldn't ought to know.
I've never had a man before me who was more deserving to be called an American citizen. I'll have your papers made out right away.
Oh, that's wonderful, Your Honor. McGee, you can stay.
That's swell, Judge. By the way, that little accent of yours, Judge. Harvard man, are you?
No, I was born in Canada, McGee. Came down here in 1927 and liked it so well I stayed.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, adopted the country, eh? When did you take out your papers, Judge?
Why, back in... my papers? Great Scott, I completely forgot it.
Sit down, Judge. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Now, here's good news. How would you like to have your own personal car initials? Well, listen to this. You've heard me sing the praises of Johnson's Car New, the famous car polish that cleans and polishes in one easy application. Now, if you'll discover for yourself how wonderful Car New is, we'll send you 2 sets of your own personal initials for your car. These car initials are really something. They're half an inch high, tastefully designed in striking gold color. You put 1 set of 3 initials on each side of your car, and believe me, they really look smart. They take only a jiffy to apply, too. And here's all you do to get these handsome decal car initials. First, buy some Johnson's Car New. Then send the sales slip or the name of the dealer from whom you bought your car new, together with a stamped, self-addressed envelope, to Fibber McGee and Molly, Racine, Wisconsin. If you live in Canada, address your request for initials to Fibber McGee and Molly, Brantford, Ontario. Print clearly which initials you want, any 3, and get your request in the mail right away. Plan to buy some Johnson's Car New and send in tomorrow. Car New is spelled C-A-R-N-U.
After the judge said he was taking out his papers right away, then what did he say, dearie?
Well, he says I was an inspiration to him. Says I was the finest example of a real American citizen he had ever seen.
Ah, my hero.
Yep. I wonder if him or Latrivia would fix this dad-ratted jury summons that come in the mail.
What?
Oh, my gosh, I'm not going to sit around any stale courtroom all day listening. That stuff's for the yokels, the immigrants. That's what that stuff's
McGee,
for.
Citizen.
Huh? Oh, good night.
Good night, all.
This is Harlow Wilcox, speaking for the makers of Johnson's Wax products for home and industry, inviting you to be with us again next Tuesday night. Good night.
June 3rd, 1947, Fibber McGee and Molly on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, thanks to our friend Ted at RadioMemories.com for providing us with this episode of Lum and Abner, fully restored. And you're not gonna hard to believe that this show goes all the way back to 1935, the way it sounds. Well, content-wise, maybe, but the audio quality is great. June 3rd, 1935, this episode of Lum and Abner as they continue dealing with the theater.
Here we are, all ready to take you down to Pine Ridge for another visit with Lum and Abner. Brought to you by the makers of Horlicks, the original malted milk. And now, let's see what's happening down in Pine Ridge. Well, Lum and Abner have a crew of carpenters busy remodeling the old cotton warehouse, which they plan to use as their new theater. They purchased a second-hand moving picture projector from the theater over at the county seat. And Cedric Wehunt, the future operator, is being sent there to learn how to operate the machine. As we look in on Pine Ridge today, we find Abner down at the Jot 'em Down store. Lum has just returned from getting Cedric started on his journey. Listen.
Well, come in, Lum, come in.
Yeah, I got Cedric started off all right.
You did?
Yeah, I never seen a boy so tickled in my life.
Well.
He rode into the county seat with the mail carrier,
Oh.
His folks was all over there to tell him goodbye. His mama stood there and waved goodbye to him first she could see him.
Well.
Big tears run down her cheeks. Body'd think he's going to war the way she carried on.
Well, Lord me, he ain't gonna be gone but a week.
Well, it ain't but 20 miles in there nohow.
No.
Guess who come in on the bus a while ago?
Who's that?
Pauline Ussery from Conway. She come in.
Well, for the land
Seen her
sakes, I'd
just-
love to see her.
Oh, it's the first time I saw her in a long time.
No. Well, I sure would love to see her. I want to tell the woman about it, too. She'll be glad to see
She'll
her.
more than likely go over and visit with her.
Yeah. Well, I just hope that Cedric learns how to run that pitcher machine, Lum, if we're going to pay all his expenses while he's in there.
Oh, he'll catch on to that all right. Manager of the Lyric in there said he'd just let him stay right up there in the booth and watch that feller run that machine of there.
Yeah. Well, that's nice of him to learn him how that way.
Well, I had that right in the deal, you know. When I bought that pitcher machine from him, I told him he'd have to show someone how to run it.
Yeah. Well, I still think that you're paying Cedric too much money, though, Lum.
Too much money?
Yes, sir.
Just paying him the same price we was giving him to deliver groceries here in the store.
Yeah, but now he gets to see the show free for nothing.
Well, he's got to see the show if he's going to run the films, Abner. He's got to look down there once in a while and see if he's got the picture on the screen straight.
Well, yeah, but there weren't no use in giving passes to the whole family, Lum.
Oh, well, it ain't going to hurt nothing. His folks wouldn't come out to the show if they had to pay nohow, so we ain't losing nothing.
Yeah, but you're just going to have that place over there full every night with folks that ain't paying nothing to get in. Started out and said that you weren't going to give no passes to nobody.
Well, I did say that,
Here you
but...
give Grandpappy Spears and all of his relations some, and Cedric and all of his family.
Well, Grandpappy's a piney player, though.
Yeah, but I was over there talking to them carpenters a while ago. They said you promised all them a pass if they'd rush that work through.
Did I tell them that?
That's what they said.
Yeah, it seemed like I did say something like that yesterday. But that'll just get it done a heap quicker, Abner.
And Mose Moots was telling me down at the barber shop that you give him one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I had to give him one. See, I rented them chairs from the lodge hall over there, and he had charge of them. That's better than giving the whole lodge a pass. Just give one to Mose. That was sort of a bait I used on him.
Man, I know, but his wife and little Moses, they never had charge of him too, did they?
Well, no, but you can't give a man a pass and expect him to leave his family at home.
No. Well, I don't know. Everybody I see and ask them if they're coming to our show when we get it opened up, why they say, sure, they got a pass. Just looks like to me we ain't going to have room for the cash customer.
Oh, there's plenty of room over there, Abner. Now, don't you start worrying about that. We rented 200 chairs.
Yeah.
I know I ain't give out over 50 passes anyway. See, these folks that's getting in for nothing will be good advertisements for us.
Advertisement.
Yeah, we'll use them for decoys. The folks around town here will be sitting out on our front gallery every evening and see a big crowd going by their place and on their way to the show, you know, and first thing you know, they'll get up and follow them along.
Yeah. Well, more than likely they'll see so many going down there that they'll figure there won't be no sitting room for them, just not go.
Oh, well, now, they ain't all going every night, Abner. Like the one I give the mail carrier for taking Cedric into Mena. He just spends every other night out here in Pine Ridge.
Well, I'll be dead blamed. Did you give him one, too?
Yeah, but there ain't but 3 in his family. Him and his wife and 1 children. They ain't gonna take up much room.
Well, I'll swan to goodness.
Well, ain't no use to complain about it now, Abner. They've done give out. Can't go around and ask them to give 'em back to us. What would Evelina think if I was to go over and tell her I'd have to have that pass back I give her?
Evelina?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot to tell you about that. I figured I may as well give her a pass. She'd be going to the show with me most of the time anyway, and I know I ain't gonna walk up and buy no ticket for her from myself.
Well, it just looks like it. We may as well just put a big sign down there saying free show. Here, you want me to take up tickets, and there ain't going to be nobody to take 'em up from.
Well, Abner, I can't run the show if you're going to be complaining about everything I do. We've got to decide on which one of us is boss and let him run things.
Yeah, decide on which one is boss.
Yeah, and I got one of us in mind that I think would make us a good man for her, too.
Yeah, and I got a pretty good idea who it is, too.
Well, I'm glad we agree on one thing, ain't it?
I never said nothing about agreeing on it. I just said I knowed who you had in mind.
Well, don't you think he'd make a good one?
No, sir, I don't. I don't think he knows a thing about running a picture show, and I ain't going to stand for it 1 minute, neither.
All right. That's the way you feel about it.
Well, that's exactly the way I feel.
I reckon we'll just have to let the other one have it then, for there ain't but two of us, you know.
Yeah, well, that's the time. Just let the other one have it then.
I just figured that you'd make a better man than I would, but if you don't want it, we'll take it. Anything to be agreeable.
Huh?
You was the one I had in mind to run it, Abner, but if you've got your head set on me doing it, well, I'll just do the best I can with it.
Well, I'll be dead blamed.
But I don't want you butting in on every little thing I do now.
Won't I ever learn to keep my big mouth shut?
I reckon that'll be better anyway, though, especially if we call it Lum's Lyric.
Call it what?
Lum's Lyric. I studied that up last night while I was laying there in bed thinking.
Yeah, you was asleep, dreaming, if you think that's what we're going to call it.
Well, see, I picked that, Abner, on account of Lum started with a L and Lyric started with a L, and it'll be easier for folks to recollect that way.
Well, in the first place, we wouldn't want to call it You're Nothing, and in the second place, that's the name of the picture show in there at the county seat, Lyric.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Why, folks would get mixed up. Somebody'd say, let's go to the show at the Lyric, while they might go clean into the county seat.
All right, then, what do you want to call it? I'll try my best to get along with you.
Well, I don't know. I just allowed we'd call it the Pine Ridge Picture Show or something like that.
Pine Ridge Picture Show.
Or Peabody and Eddard's Picture Show.
They don't call them picture shows, Abner.
What do they call them?
Why, you've got to have a name that don't mean nothing. Or, that is, it ain't got nothing to do with the picture show. Like Majestic and Princess and Orphans.
Orphans?
Yeah, didn't you never hear of Orphans Theater?
I've heard of Orphans' Homes.
Well, there's theaters, too. I went to one when I was in Kansas City last week. And there's some they call Palace.
Palace?
Yeah.
Peabody's Palace. That makes
now,
a good
just stop right where you're at, Abner. I know what you're going to say. Might be best for us just not to have neither one of our names up there.
Up where?
On the big electric sign in front.
What big electric sign?
Wait a minute. Here comes Dick Huddleston.
Yeah, I see him, but what about that big electric sign? Oh, that's the first I'd heard of that.
Well, I just figured we ought to have one. Might not all picture shows has got them.
Well, I don't see no use in it, Lum, spending all that money. There won't be but one show in town, and everybody know where it's at. Them that's up at that time of night will be at the show, and them that ain't will be asleep to where they couldn't see it nohow.
Wait a minute. Well, howdy, Dick. Come in.
Well, howdy. I just came by the warehouse over there. Looks like they about got that new floor finished.
Yeah, as they said, they'd have it done by night.
How you, Abner?
All right, I reckon, Dick. Sit down.
Yeah. Me and Abner was just sitting here trying to decide on a name for our new show.
Oh, haven't you picked out a name for it yet?
No, we can't seem to find one that both of us agrees on.
Well, you want to get a good name for it, all right, Lum.
Yeah, I thought about calling it Roxy's, but somebody's beat us to that name.
Yeah, and you ought to have something different. So many of them's named Lyric and Queen and Princess and names like that.
Of course, we want a name that's going to sound like a picture show, though.
Yeah, sure.
Well, sir, I passed a building while I was there in Kansas City. Looked a heap like a picture show building, but I never went inside. But I like the name of that about as well as anything I've saw. Had a sign out in front said the Planetarium.
Doggy, that is a good-sounding name, all right.
Yeah, I thought so.
Planetarium?
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't want to give your picture show a name like that, Lum.
Well, what's the matter with it?
Why, a planetarium is a place where they study the solar system, the stars, and the planets.
Place where they do what?
A place where folks can go in and look at the stars.
Well, Granny, that's just what we want then. That's the very name we're looking for. Yeah, they can come in our place to look at the movie stars. Granny, that's just what we'll call it, the Pine Ridge Planetarium. I'm sure proud you explained that to us. Here, Dick, here, take these. I'll give you passes for your whole family there.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, if Lum keeps this up, the Pine Ridge Planetarium is going to do a big business with free admissions. We still have a minute or so left, folks. Let's listen to what Mr. M.C. Wood of Phillipsburg, Kansas, says in a recent letter to Lum and Abner.
For a long time, I've been an ardent admirer of your product, Horlick's Malted Milk. I always say that it saved the life of my 2 twin daughters. Here's the story. For months, it seemed they wouldn't live. After 6 months of anxious worry in which my wife and I tried food after food, we put them on Horlick's Malted Milk. They seem to take to Horlicks just like a duck takes to water, beginning to gain immediately. They're 2 years old now, fine, strong, healthy girls, and are never without their Horlicks. I know that lots of mothers would be interested in Horlicks if they only knew its value.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wood. Just as you say, if only all mothers knew the value of Horlicks malted milk in infant feeding, there would certainly be that many more healthy babies. Horlicks, you know, is sold at all druggists. This is Carlton Brickert, speaking for Lum and Abner and Horlicks, who now bid you all good night and good health.
And so now you know why the motion picture in Pine Ridge was named the Pine Ridge Planetarium. June 3rd, 1935, Lum and Abner on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. I'm so happy to have a complete collection of Lum and Abner that is fully restored. Because as I said before, back, it has to be 15 years ago, I got CDs from Lum and Abner collectors, and they were horrible sound quality, but they were enjoyable shows. And now you can hear the shows much better and in broadcast quality. That's the great part about this. Thanks to Ted, RadioMemories.com. RadioMemories.com. Shows available on cassette, CD, or flash drive for your computer. If you have a friend or a family member who still only uses cassettes and doesn't use CDs or computers or iPods or any of that stuff, you can contact Ted for cassettes. There you go, RadioMemories.com. Now, we want to thank this station. Hope you will support their advertisers. Their kindness and courtesy allow us to be with you each and every time you roll around here on your favorite station. Our webpage, classicradio.stream. Stream our shows on demand. Learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. Learn about getting our show through podcast. Also, you can find our social media links. If you'd like to support us, you can buy me a coffee. That helps us acquire additional classic radio collections and helps us maintain our distribution channels. That's at classicradio.stream. Classicradio.stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tell all your friends the greatest radio shows of all time are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.